Hello, children. Today we are going to start a new chapter, The Cop and the Anthem. This chapter you can find in your elementary reader book, An Alien Hand. This is chapter number 4. Before going to read and explain the chapter, I would like to tell about the author of this story. This famous story is written by O. Henry. O. Henry was an American short story author whose real name was William Sidney Porter. Henry's rich canon of work reflected his wide range of experiences and is distinctive for its witticism, clever wordplay, and unexpected twist endings. Like many other writers, O. Henry's early career aspirations were unfocused, and he wandered across different activities and professions before he finally found his calling as a short story writer. He started working in his uncle's drugstore in 1879 and became a licensed pharmacist by the age of 19. His first creative expressions came while working in the pharmacy, where would sketch the townspeople that frequented the store. The customer reacted warmly to his drawings and was admired for his artistry and drawing skill. O. Henry moved to the Texas in March of 1882, hoping to get rid of persistent cough and that he had developed. While there, he took up residence on the sheep ranch, learning shepherding, cooking, babysitting, and bits of Spanish and German from the many migrant farmhands. He had an active social life in Austin and was a fine musician skilled with the guitar and mandolin. Over the next several years, Porter, as he was still known, took a number of different jobs from pharmacy to drafting, journalism, and banking. Here's where the twists and turns really started. Banking, in particular, was not to be O. Henry's calling. He was quite careless with his bookkeeping, fired by the bank and the charge with the embezzlement in 1894. Taxes. O. Henry sent his wife and daughters back to the Texas, after which he holed up in the hotel to write his first collection of the short story, Cabbages and Kings, published in 1904. He learned his wife was dying of the tuberculosis and could not join him in the Honduras, so he returned to Austin and turned himself into the court. His father in law again posted his bail so he could remain with his wife until her death in 1897. He was sentenced and served in the federal prison in Ohio for 5 years from 1989 to 1902. During his jail time, he returned to the practicing pharmacy and had a room in the hospital, never having to live in a cell. His second collection of stories, The 4 Million, was released in 1906. The stories are set in the New York City and the title is based on the population of the city at that time. The collection contains several short stories, masterpieces including The Gift of Maggie, The Cop and the Anthem, and many others. Henry had an obvious affection for the New York City and its diversity of people and places, a reverence that rises up through many of his stories. The Gift of Maggie epitomizes his style. It's about a young married couple short on money which who wish to buy each other Christmas gift. That problem, their lacks of the funds to famously endearing and ironical resolution. The cop and the anthem is about a New York City hobo with a creative solution for dealing with the cold city street during winter. And another story, a retrieved reformation, is about a safe cracker, and these are his famous work. The cop and the anthem. In this lesson, we will study The Cop and the Anthem by O. Henry. In this story, a man longs for something strange, something he thinks he needs: to be arrested. One simple wish. Ever heard the saying, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it? The main character of this story is the epitome of that saying. We all think we want or need something. We sometimes even get desperate for it. Sometimes, though, it is exactly that we never want it. In The Cop and the Anthem, Soapy thinks the best thing for him is to be arrested. Does he ever get what he wants? Is it really what he wants? So let's see the story. Before you read, have you ever found yourself in a situation in which what happened was opposite of what you expected? If so, you are familiar with the irony of the situation, which is often embarrassing. The story that you are going to read has a number of such situations. Now, in this story, you can find a character, Soapy. Soapy is a homeless, jobless man. Winter is fast approaching, and Soapy must have a place to stay. Soapy comes to a decision at last. Now, here in the first part of this story, The Cop and the Anthem, we will see it's the beginning of the fall in the New Year, New York. Soapy is on a bench at home, which is Madison Square. He is a homeless man who is in despair at the thought of the winter coming. He will no longer be able to keep warm under newspaper. He starts to think of alternatives. He knows that a shelter in the city will board him. But they ask so many questions. He set his mind on going to the Blackwell Island, or the island as he refers to it. The island is the easy enough place to get to. All he has to do is get himself arrested, shelter, food, rules, warm, and no questions. So let's see in the chapter. This chapter is about a young homeless man named Soapy, who even did not have a job, and in the due time did not have food and a place to live. As the cold and the harsh winter approached, so he plans in something special. He plans to do something unlawful, so that he is caught by the police and put on trial and sent to the jail for the 3 or more months till the harsh winter was over. So by doing so, he would at least have regular meals to eat and a place to sleep in the jail till the winter season was over. But Soapy finds out that going to jail was not going easy. The harder he tried to do something wrong, the more he got further away in achieving his goal of going to the famous Blackwell prison jail. Now, I am going to read the first paragraph of this story. Soapy moved restlessly on his seat in Madison Square. There are certain signs to show that winter is coming. Birds begin to fly south. People want new warm coats, and Soapy moves restlessly on his seat in the park. When you see these signs, you know that winter is near. A dead leaf fell at Soapy's feet. That was a special sign for him that winter was coming. It was a time for all who lived in the Madison Square to prepare. Soapy mind now realized that fact the time had come. He had to find some way to take care of himself during the cold weather, and therefore he moved restlessly on his seat. Now I am going to explain these paragraphs. The setting of the story is in the New York City, in the United States of America. Soapy was once a resident in the New York City, but now he was homeless in the city and was not now spending chilling nights in the Madison Square Park bench. He was seated on the bench and could easily read the sign of fast approaching winter. The birds were now flying south to warmer regions. People in the city had started taking out their warm clothes. The withered leaves have started The withered leaves have started falling down to earth and giving a clear message that it was time for everyone to prepare oneself for the harsh winter which was almost near. Now, Soapy mind was released that fact. From here, I am going to explain. Soapy was a smart man and he was quick to read the sign of the changing season. He quickly assessed the situation that the winter was going to be very cold and hurting for a person who neither had to enough warm clothes, place to sleep, nor food to eat. When during the winter it was needed all the more. Soapy was one person who did not have neither of these. He realized that he had to do something very soon, or the winter would claim his life due to cold and hunger. Soapy hopes for the winter were not very high. He was not thinking of sailing away on a ship. He was not thinking of southern skies or the Bay of Naples. 3 months in the prison on Blackwell's Island was what he wanted. 3 months of food every day and a bed every night. 3 months safe for the cold north wind and safe from cops. This is what Soapy wanted most in the world. Now here you can see winter in the western countries are very severe and harsh. Special preparation are made by the residents and also the government to ensure that people do not suffer due to cold, ice and storms during the winter season. People who can easily afford move to the southern regions of USA where the weather is more favorable. They spend their winter in these warmer regions and return back when is the winter is over. But in the case of Sophie, it was not so. He was not going to the certain region because he neither had any money nor the needed resources to do so. For years, Blackwell Island had been his winter home. Richer New Yorkers made their plans to go to the Florida or to the shore of the Mediterranean Sea each winter. Soapy made his small plans for going to the island. And now the time had come. Three big newspapers, some under his coat and some over his legs, had not kept him warm during the night in the park. He could not rest, even think of the sailing to the warmer region of the southern part of the region of Naples in the European country of Italy. Sophie's hopes and wishes were not so high. He did not want to go to any warmer region to escape the old winters. All he wanted was the prison cell of the Blackwell Island, where he would get food every day and bed to sleep every night. He would be safe from everything that he experienced during the cold winter in the Mediterranean square. There would be no cop around to disturb him and kick him down from the park benches which served as his bed in the park during the night. Soapy planned that there could be no better place than the Blackwell prison, where he could easily keep himself safe for the winter. Soapy was not new to his Blackwell prison winter home. He had been doing this for years now, as the winter tells us on his instance. Every year, when the winter began, Soapy cunningly schemed up some unlawful act or crime to be put away by the judge for 3 or 4 months in the Blackwell prison jail, which was more than enough for Soapy to see away the period of harsh winter. And after serving a sentence of 3 to 4 months of the jail, he would again be out and spend the rest of the months sleeping here and there, and again before the onset of winter would do the same again. We see that while richer people of the New York City made plans for going to Florida and sunny region and other warmer areas in the Mediterranean, Soapy only had a plans to go to the island where he would find the appropriate place to spend the winter. He was prepared to work out his plan because the winter was getting stranger or stronger, and he was to act as fast as he could because sleeping in the open and the Madison Park was not going to be easy. All the big newspapers he was using to cover himself were not enough. The coat was also not enough to keep away the winter. It was time to put the plan in force. Now let's move to the next paragraph. So Soapy was thinking of the island. There were places in the city where he could go and ask for food and a bed. These would be given to him. He could move from one building to another, and he would be taken care of through the winter, but he liked Blackwell Island better. Soapy's spirit was proud. If he went to any of these places, there were certain things he had to do. In one way or another, he would have to pay for what they gave him. They would not ask him for money, but they would make him wash his whole body. They would make him answer questions. They would want to know everything about his life. No prison was better than that. The prison had rules and he would have to follow. But in prison, a gentleman's own life was still his own life. Soapy, having decided to go to the island, at once began to move towards his desire. Now, here you can see southern skies means warmer places. Blackwell Island, name of the prison. If Soapy went to the prison, to the government would look after his food and stay. Cop means policeman, American English. Now from here I'm going to start. In this picture you can see the Soapy is sitting on the bench. Soapy thought of everything. There were places when he would go, where he would go, and asking for food and a shelter. And there were people who would help him also. There were so many places where his needs would be met easily. He could easily get all he wanted to see away the winter. But according to Soapy, all these were of no match to the comfort he was to get the Blackwell jail. Though Soapy was ready to go to the prison for his benefits, he was not prepared to bow down to anyone. He had his own self-esteem in a certain manner. It was not that people who helped him would ask for money or any favors, but it was the attitude of those people that troubled him more. They would ask him to wash his body, whole body, every and now and then to keep him clean. Further on, they would talk to him on various personal issues which Soapy always avoided. He was never ready to give away his dignity at the cost of the shelter and food which he would get from those people. He was not ready to give away all these things for some meals and a bed. Prisons were always a better option than a shelters at home. Though prisons had its own strict rules which everyone had to follow, but at least his own personal life was secure and the dignity was never challenged in any manner. So now it was decided that, as it had been a previous occasions, this winter also Soapy was going to the Blackwell Island prison because he was a very self-respect person. There could be no better place than Blackwell to spend the winter. He quickly made up his mind and started to move in order to fulfill the plan which he desired this winter yet again. So, in the first part of the story, we have seen that Soapy was a young man. He had left his home and parents. He became a vagabond. He spent his days alone in the Madison Square. It was all right in summer. He made his bed warm with 3 newspapers. There were quite a few others like him living there. What would happen during the winter? He started feeling uneasy. The winter was coming. He felt cold on the park bench. He realized the need to find some cozy place. But he did not think of going to warmer regions outside their country. Just 3 months in the prison of the Blackwell Island was what he wanted. There he was sure of getting food and a bed every night. He would be safe from cold wind and also from fear of the police. He had been to prison for a number of times during winter. He decided to go to prison somehow. If he goes to any other place, he would have to pay for the room and the meals. He might be asked to wash their clothes and answer all the personal questions. Prison was better than all other options. He would be his own master there. Soapy thought of easy ways to reach the prison. If he goes to eat at restaurant and then tell them he had no money, they would call a cop who would arrest him. So he just planning to go to the jail.
Story about Soapy, who tries to do everything that is possible to get into prison. Let us see why he tries to do so and if he succeeds in his endeavor. On his bench in Madison Square, Soapy moved uneasily. When wild geese honk high of nights, and when women without sealskin coats grow kind to their husbands, and when Soapy moves uneasily on his bench in the park, you may know that winter is near at hand. Soapy's mind became cognizant of the fact that the time had come for him to provide against the coming rigor, and therefore he moved uneasily on his bench. On this cold winter night, when wild geese cry in the cold, and women who do not have expensive coats hug their husbands for warmth, Soapy was uneasy in the bench that he was lying on, wondering how he would face the harsh winter without a home. The hibernatorial ambitions of Soapy were not of the highest. Hibernatorial means plans for a shelter. In them, there were no considerations of Mediterranean cruises, of soporific southern skies drifting in the Vesuvian Bay. Soporific means sleep-inducing and relaxing. Southern skies here refer to regions with warm sunlight. 3 months on the island was what his soul craved. Here, island refers to Blackwell's Island that once housed a jail. 3 months of assured board and bed and congenial company. Congenial means friendly. All Soapy wanted was to go to the prison for 3 months of winter, where he would get food and shelter and his kind of company. For years, the hospitable Blackwells had been his winter quarters. Just as his more fortunate fellow New Yorkers had bought their tickets to Palm Beach and the Riviera each winter, so Soapy had made his humble arrangements for his annual hijira to the island. Hijira means migration. And now the time was come. On the previous night, 3 Sabbath newspapers distributed beneath his coat, about his ankles and over his lap, had failed to repulse the cold as he slept on his bench. Sabbath means Sunday. Newspapers on Sunday had more pages than usual. Soapy tried to protect himself from harsh winter by covering his body with thick newspapers. So the island loomed big and timely in Soapy's mind. Soapy, having decided to go to the island, at once set about accomplishing his desire. There were many easy ways of